And typically, since we have plenty of mentors here, we won't, the mentor that's working with the group won't comment. We'll let the time be there. Keep in mind that the best thing for this is to listen to the feedback. This is not you're not defending your thesis. You're not defending your company. If you don't understand something, ask, well, I don't understand what you mean, but you don't have to defend. These are just comments and input. And typically what you're going to want to do is talk things over with your mentor afterwards, later on this week, if you don't understand something. You don't want to get into a discussion here. Just, okay, I got it. Good. Or I don't understand. You'll say that many times to Scott. I don't understand, but that's okay. Um, that's okay.
Exactly.
He could take it. He could take it. So I don't have the list. So who would like to go? Ottersampler, why don't you go first?
Okie dokie.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so our slides are hopefully visible, and then I'm going to project. So that looks okay there, Art?
It looks perfect. Thank you.
All right, great. So
Awesome.
okay.
Hey everyone. So we're Otter Sampler. Again, it's late. And I'm going to start off by telling you that we're in the business of protecting underserved, disadvantaged communities from unsafe water. And we do this with a product called Ottersampler that is easy to use and affordable sampling technology so that everyone can access safe water toward health equity. And we have a very diverse team, and I am the CEO, and Will Grover is our technological lead, and we have really fabulous customer connection partners and our fabulous EIR Art. So what's the problem? The problem is that millions of people across the US are drinking from private wells that are contaminated. And right now, the reason that's happening is because testing that water is really expensive and oftentimes very complicated. But the key point here is that the people who are most vulnerable to this are the underserved and disadvantaged communities who don't have the means to test their drinking water regularly.
All right, and so we have two distinct customer groups that we're focusing on with these hypotheses. The first set are the individuals working in the community-based organizations that are on the ground out in the Eastern Coachella Valley actually performing this water testing, coming, visiting folks' residences and collecting water samples to bring back to a lab for analysis to look for toxic metals like arsenic. So this is the current way this is analyzed, and this method doesn't scale well. They're not testing enough sites, and they don't test frequently enough. So this is the main problem we're trying to solve. The hypotheses we're testing with the staff from these community-based organizations is saying that if we were able to create a technology that made it possible for them to test more samples and for folks to test their own water in their homes, would that increase the rate at which we're doing this testing and identify problematic wells that have elevated levels of arsenic and other contaminants in it? And so we're actually already making progress toward working with this group of customers, and that Sam will be actually starting tomorrow, working with interviewing some folks in the Eastern Coachella Valley through the community service organization Pueblo Unido. And so that's the first group.
So our second customer segment are the community members or the residents themselves that own private wells. And the idea here is if we don't have a technician coming to your home and it's way more convenient, the residents would want to test their water more frequently. And if they can do it themselves, they'll also trust their tap water more because they're involved in the process of actually collecting the samples. And so with this, also the property owners can become more compliant with water regulations because the whole process is just easier.
All right. And our value proposition is simple. We're about decreasing the number of people who are being poisoned by the water that they drink, pure and simple. But this has a lot of tangible benefits to it as well. This means that we can identify the wells that are problematic and deploy to them the remediation technologies like reverse osmosis filters that are already in existence. We just need to identify the wells that need them the most. And there's obviously financial value to this as well. We can reduce the cost that goes into compliance and maintaining adherence with various water quality regulations. And also, if people stay healthier, of course, there's decreased downstream medical costs because hopefully they'll stay healthier and won't be victim to a lot of the illnesses that contamination from heavy metals like arsenic can cause. So that's our presentation for today. Thank you.
Just about 40 seconds over 3 minutes, so not bad. Just tighten it up, so that's okay. So I will open up. I'll open up for questions and comments. And Ottersample, I will take notes. So you just need to focus on the feedback, and I'll send you notes. So Scott, you'll be second. So
Yes, Eric was first.
Eric,
Ed
Eric was
Eric.
first, and you'll always be second, Scott.
I know I'm always second in your heart, Art.
So please,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I actually put the question in as you were speaking. If you could go back to your first slide, I get what you're doing. I appreciate it. But there's two things that I'm missing, and I see maybe you haven't decided on this slide who your customer is. You got to it later. You were talking about the water quality testers versus the people at home, and it made sense, and it made your story longer. But you might want to, for the class, because you can either interview everyone who drinks water, which is a big sample set, or the water quality testers, which might be a smaller sample set with registered phone numbers that you can reach. And see if they say like, no, we're not going to test more because if we can get out by 4 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock, we're just going to go home and call it a day. So they may have certain recordings that they need to meet and they don't care any more than that. So it might be interesting to see, what these obvious users, whether or not they're going to be the ones using it or whether you should go to the home users, which are obviously going to want it. But then can you give us some quantitation, like how big of a problem are, I guess, metals? I'm not sure what your test is specifically looking for, arsenic or whatever. How big of a problem does it cause this many $1 million in health costs or whatever, so that we as a investor in your kit say like, oh, this is a huge problem and the community is going to pay this much for it, whether it be the governments or the individual home users are going to want to pay for testing of this sort of thing.
Yeah, good points.
Thank you, Eric. Scott, go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is great because I'm actually mentoring a couple of startups that are dealing with water issues. One is removing PFAS from water, and then the other is working on some microplastics remediation stuff. So I totally get that this is especially for at-risk and underserved populations. This is a cool deal. Maybe not a business, but certainly or maybe not a for-profit, I should say, not a business. So I don't really have any feedback other than two things. One is, have you applied to the Oasis Challenge? Because I was just reviewing all the applicants because we're making decisions for the final pitch, and I don't remember seeing your names unless one of your students or other folks applied, and I just don't recognize their name. Do you know what the Oasis Challenge is?
Oh, yeah.
You all need to apply for that because that's basically $70,000 in grant funding for the first place on down. It's $150,000 event that we're doing, a pitch competition. And you're like perfectly like right in the wheelhouse of exactly what the funders of the grants are looking for. So please apply to that. Francis, do you have the link? I can find it while everyone else is talking, but please apply to that because you're the perfect project for applying for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we have proof of concept funding that's somehow through Oasis, and so I'm not sure if that precludes us from subsequent funding or what.
No.
Okay, but that's
No, this is different.
Okay.
This is a pitch competition. Sorry, I won't keep. Sorry, Art. I know we're trying to stay on time, but anyway, it's in the chat. Just go ahead and apply, please.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Again, while you're second.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I actually
Francis,
I-
please. But I'll stop kidding, Scott. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, we already sent you the links of the chat in the chat, so please visit. I think I emailed this to you. Anyways, there is the feedback from me now that you're on your first slide. In your business thesis, please rephrase it to answer 3 questions. Who you are, what do you do, who you do it for, and why do they care? Okay. And I think that addresses the comments from my fellow mentors. Thank you.
All right.
Other feedback from anybody?
Okay, is it shared?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Well, we're the Neurovascular Device team. From left to right, that's me. I realize I need to get a better picture, but the PhD student and I'm the business lead in this. And then my PI is Dr. Masaru Rao, who's the tech lead. And then we have an undergraduate student, who's business development. His name is David. Then we have financial analyst, which is Ben, and our two mentors, Art and Jay. So, like I said before, we're part of the Biomedical Micro Devices Laboratory, and it's the Mechanical Engineering Department of UCR. And basically, our company we're a company that produces medical devices, and we're in the business of preventing strokes. And we're doing this with medical technology that reduces complications compared to other technologies. Okay, so in the previous slide, we said we're in the business of treating strokes, and to treat strokes, we have to look into treating aneurysms. So what are aneurysms? They are bulges in blood vessels, and some quick stats on this is that 1 in 20 people will experience aneurysms in their life, and untreated aneurysms can lead to stroke. So treating these aneurysms in the back of the brain, especially in the vascular artery, is difficult. And doctors need to keep blood flowing through the smaller arteries in this section, which and at the same time helping the aneurysm heal. So the tools we currently use to treat aneurysms can sometimes block blood from reaching these smaller surrounding arteries, which can cause death. And so in one sentence, we need a medical device that keeps blood flowing in smaller surrounding arteries while also promoting healing within aneurysms. So for the business hypothesis, we need to identify our interview demographics, which are basically doctors who specialize in treating strokes. And then our hypothesis that we're testing is that if there's a device that can address the problems of simultaneously maintaining blood flow in smaller surrounding arteries while promoting the healing of the aneurysm, physicians will adopt our device as it will be safer and more effective solution with less complications and less compromises. So the next steps, of course, is just to plan the interviews. And then to wrap up, we go over the business model canvas, which is basically us taking a step back for an overview to show what value that our business will bring to the customers. And the two propositions that we have is that for customer value, we propose that our tech will enable physicians to treat aneurysms in the back of the brain by not only addressing aneurysm healing, but also the concurrent problem of sufficient blood flow to other branching arteries. So this in turn offers a safer and better way to treat aneurysms than current solutions. And for our customer segments, for our customers, of course, we just have the brain and vascular surgeons who specialize in aneurysm treatment. And that concludes my presentation.
Excellent. Right on time. Just you had another 30 seconds to spend, but you'll use that up as time goes on. Let's see, who could go first? Scott, why don't you go first?
Well, let's let Eric go first. He gives the more.
No.
Me?
Listen to me. Listen to me.
All right. So I'm just going to give you a quick question, which is that I would think about, which is that really your customer? And is that really the customer that you want to talk to? Or would it be better to talk to med device companies? So that's my only feedback. Eric?
Interesting point. It also raises the issue that I will warn you now. Surgeons are very hard to get hold of. That's good luck. I might be able to help you with a few. But that said, let's see, what was my question? So first of all, Art, you're wrong. They were 30 seconds over. And they spent a long time introducing their team, which lasted about 30 seconds. So maybe just glossing over the team might save them some time. And we're going to add more slides later. So you got to get faster at this. But this is the first time, so don't worry about that. I'd throw away your first sentence. You produce medical devices, we don't care. Francisca said in the last deck was what do you have? Who's going to use it? And why do they care? That's all you need to say. And I used to know a guy named Art. He was really a sage, wise advisor who would say things, say it in one breath, in one sentence, using words your grandmother would understand. So take that to heart, or in this case, the vasculature at least, if you can say it simply instead of, what do you got, 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences, three sentences there or something like that, and I'd throw away the first one.
Okay.
So there, and there's your customers right there. Whether or not it's the right customer, as Scott said, but on the last page, that should match what you have on the first page. So those customers, I'd say they're valid, but you may find that they are the end user, as opposed to the med device companies that you might be selling to, perhaps. And I think that's a fair alternate customer if you're looking for a distributor or an intermediary.
Francis, please.
Yeah. To follow up on this, since you pointed out that early intervention is critical, consider who will be the first line of defense in medical professionals. Maybe that is the person that needs to be your primary customer. So is it the EMT or the primary doctor or the ER person? Because based on your problem and the solution you're offering, you're saying that you have the distinctive ability to reduce the risk of the aneurysm. So I suggest that think about it. It's like, where do you want, in this treatment, where do you want your device to be part of? It's either, let's say, oh, you're going to give it to the fire department, or you're going to give it to the EIR person, or who do you think is the ideal person to use this device? Or it's until the surgeon that is actually performing the last surgery after 24 hours or 48 hours. Think about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Other feedback?
Art, I have a comment. My hand raised button isn't working, so I just have to butt in here.
Thank you.
First of all, I agree with what Eric said. Particularly, you identified a customer, whether it's the right customer or not on slide 4. But if you do go back to slide 1, really in your business thesis, you did not identify your customer.
Right.
You told us what you did. And from slide 1, we would assume your customer is a person that has the aneurysm, and that's certainly not where you're headed.
Right.
So that I would just reiterate what Eric said there. And then secondly, if you go to slide 2, I want to compliment you on how you identified the problem. A problem that we have all the time, particularly with people who are in technology and medical devices and things. You'll state things in medical jargon and we don't understand it. I thought you did a really good job of identifying the problem, and it was something I could understand very easily. So good job with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I see Zeph. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna make an offer and say that I also know some surgeons, so if it comes down to it, I'd be very happy to help and introduce you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Just 1 second. All right. Anybody else? Thank you.
The usual question asked is, can you quantify it? I see 1 in 20 people will experience an aneurysm here in this, but I don't know if we're going to keep the problem slides as a regular part of our delivery.
No.
We will? Oh, okay.
No, we will not.
We will not. Okay. So usually you want to get that point across right away on the intro. You saying, oh, well, we sell devices, okay, good. But is it really a big deal? Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And if you can say this many people die or this many people suffer life-crippling, stroke-related issues because of aneurysms, something that hooks us in and says like, wow, this is really a big deal. I better pay attention to what they have.
Okay.
Something quantifiable.
All right. So do you want to continue? Yes, continue. Good, share. Let me move this here. Boom, boom, boom.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Magdalena Cepeda-Salig, and I'm the team lead for the Got Info app project. And so our team is here. This is, I am first and foremost a wife, mom, and daughter. And then above that, I'm a teacher and now the team lead for this project. And our business thesis is that Got Info is a mobile application, going online platform that connects the consumer's needs to nearby brick and mortar. So we are the connector of these two. And so we have our development team here. We have recent graduates from Cal State San Bernardino who have joined the team, and all very, very well, excellent resumes, and very willing to assist with the project. But ultimately, what our solution is going to do is it's going to streamline the product and service search and connect it to that business, that brick and mortar establishment, so that they can increase their profitability. And so the problem that we have here is that whenever we're looking for something very specific that we need. So for example, I use the story about my son needing an inhaler in Portland, Oregon. We're searching for these products. And brick and mortar is still recovering from the COVID crisis. People are starting to go back into the brick and mortar and looking for things. So at the end of all this, you put this together, we have people who may find what they need, but after they are frustrated, they're stressed, and out of gas sometimes. And so in one sentence, consumers struggle to find reliable real-time information in nearby establishments, which results in wasted time for the consumer and missed sales opportunities for the vendors. Our interview demographics. So we are planning on interviewing brick and mortar establishments. And that would be tax, notary services, maybe the meat market, the small business brick and mortar in the community, small pharmacies that are local pharmacies, restaurants, niche restaurants, those that carry halal items or plates, and mobile vendors as well. Sometimes you have a hankering for tacos, street tacos. Where are these trucks? Or my kids, they want ice cream. I don't know where the ice cream guy is. So that's what we would post on this platform. And our hypothesis is brick and mortar establishments subscribe to the Got Info app, then they will improve their return on their investment. And of course, our next steps is to schedule these interviews with these businesses. And I know it'll be different.
Most of this information is publicly available because you're basically trying to recreate Yelp, YELP, which already exists. What I would recommend doing is outside of class, in addition to customer discovery, go and read the interviews from the founders of that company to understand how they went about building it, because it will be very instructive to you on how they did it. That's number one. And then the other thing to think about is that most people are now getting their answers from their phones, and they're searching on a search engine, which is almost always Google. So you have a situation here where you really need to think about, like, when you say SMBs for small businesses, right? Like, you may have to hyper focus, like SMBs in a tiny city or something like that, as opposed to, you know what I mean? So I would just think about those things, like why you're trying to figure out who your actual customer is and who you're going to do the interviews with. And also realize that SMBs get hit by dozens and dozens and dozens of B2B SaaS, software as a service startups, and companies that are trying to get them to pay them a monthly subscription, just so you know. So just a few things to think about. Eric?
Well, you stole my idea. That's why we have to always put your second. But you have to
Yeah, exactly.
I just have the magic box. I didn't know it was Yelp. I just type, where is such and such, you know. But I agree. There's already stuff out there. And that'll be a slide we look at later where we talk about competition. So then you need to say, oh, but we're different because such and such. So if you can already have in your head, yeah, there are lots of ways to search, but we offer this benefit, then you may have something. And so if you can pick out a benefit that says why you're better than these other things like Yelp, I don't know, I just have the magic box. Then that may be what your business is based upon. and you didn't say it. You said it later on where you talked about store managers, but you didn't say it on the first slide. So that's why I typed in the chat was I said, who's your customer? Is it people shopping or people selling? So your first slide and your last slide should line up with each other.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Can you put up your last slide a little bit real quick? I forgot to tell you to leave the slide up. Yeah, again, I'm going to focus more on the class stuff. Scott made really good. You're in a really tough business, not impossible business, but it's a tough business. I think a couple of things. One, if you can put your hands around what is increased sales, if you can get a metric, if you say, listen, our hypothesis is if we can show people or show these small businesses that we can increase their sales by 10% by this this tool, we can do it. What does loyalty mean? These are more descriptors. Um, just putting some numbers here so that it's more numbers oriented. I think the challenge you're going to do, and I agree with Scott, is probably maybe trying to segment your customer base down just a little bit. Because I heard you talk about a lot of different things. You might say, what are some of the customers or what are some of the stores or the establishments that we believe would be a good stepping point for us? They would really jump on this. I mean, I loved your story about the pharmaceutical thing. I mean, that might be it. That might be like maybe we just segment this down and say, hey, if I'm a mom and I need medicine for my kid and I'm in the middle of nowhere, I want to know who can get me this medicine or who can do this for me. Or maybe there's a couple others that you could really focus in on like that. And then when you talk to these customers or your customers, which are these stores, you're going to want to try to dodge Scott's concern and just say, we're doing research here. We're trying to we're doing a little research on behalf of the University of California on sort of how do you get customers? How do you get customers? What are your challenges to get customers? Where do they come from? And then kind of funnel it down to how many, what kind of platforms do you really love that you pay for and you really dig and why? And then you kind of focus down to what does your platform got to do to differentiate yourself? And that would be that. Then you don't have to worry about them saying, okay, what are you selling? We're doing research on behalf of the University of California on platforms that small business use. And that'll help you get in there.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Sorry, I may not have everybody on my screen here.
The other thing to do while you're doing customer discovery is also just go out and study other two-sided marketplaces, because the first thing that's going to, because I mean, the first challenge will be the businesses could say, this sounds awesome. Your software is amazing. Da, 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 da. How many users are on your platform? And then you're going to say, well, we're working on that. I mean, so I'm just saying, study those who've come before you and built massive businesses. And I already mentioned Yelp. The other one to study would be Uber, Uber, just to understand how they built that two-sided marketplace. And like Art said, maybe you need to really niche down into like, instead of calling it, what is it called? Got info, it's mom info or something, or mom info for babies, or, like, just think about those things. Those are all things part of the customer discovery process to think about and research and look into.
I kind of dig that too, Scott. And I'm sort of thinking a little bit about maybe because you have just this wonderful experience as a mom and doing this, that maybe you think about that listen, maybe the big deal is what, how do I bring moms to your business? Because you have this personal experience and feelings and all of that. And I love that hook. I love that hook. And maybe there's a little bit of investigation that there's like two or three things that moms really need, or
Well,
house husbands or whatever you want to call it, that they really need with children, that this would be something like, hey, I'd really like to have this. So you might want to bring it down. But just a thought. I love your story, and I'd like you to hook on that a little bit more and see if that is that segment that Scott's talking about, rather than this huge thing. Okay.
But I don't want to take away from that either, that she may have something that is, yeah, there's Yelp and all that stuff out there, but she may have one more thing that makes it better.
Yeah.
So if you can define what that thing is, but maybe that one thing, as everyone else is saying, is that maybe it's just good for moms looking for medicine in strange places in the middle of the night. Okay, well,
All right, we got to move on. We got to move on. If you need, by the way, you can email any of us if you want more comments or anything like that, or more emphasis or something like that.
Hi, so I'm Sean Shirazi. I'm the team lead, also background in software development. Part of my team is Payman Shirazi, a background in engineering, and our mentor, Eric. So our business thesis is that we provide radio-based communication for radio-based communication devices. I'm sorry, I'm getting a...
It's okay.
There you go. I'm getting my notifications was all right. Our business thesis, we provide radio-based communications and location tracking devices for extreme sporting groups to increase safety and connectivity in environments without cell service. And slide 2 is the problem that we're addressing. And the problem we're addressing is the need for immediate location tracking and messaging in those areas where cell service or Wi-Fi networks are unavailable. And we can see this primarily affecting the extreme sporting groups and individuals in those isolated regions who do require that real-time or immediate connectivity. And that can help them for like safety, navigation, and group coordination. So if we can wrap that up in one sentence, we can say that current technology lacks both immediate group tracking and messaging. Our business hypothesis and the demographic that we're going to be interviewing are going to be the extreme sporting groups. So that could be anywhere from hikers, snow sports, so snowboarding or skiing, motocross. So we could say the demographic for the motocross would be like ATVs or people who take their Jeeps to off-road, they go off trail, and there's no cell towers out there. And the hypothesis we're testing here is extreme sporting groups will purchase our product if it provides both that immediate group tracking and messaging. And again, this is increasing that group safety, navigation, and coordination when they're out in those remote regions. Our next steps is going to be scheduling interviews with people in these extreme sporting groups who are active in those areas. So the values that, well, first of all, the customer segment, again, are those people in hikers, snowboards, motocross, and there's many of them. These are just a few that we listed here, but they all fall under the same customer segment here. I don't think that we can really separate those people from snow sports to the motocross. So we group them all into one because we believe that our product is versatile enough to fit all those needs in those areas because they're all facing the same problem here, which is lack of connectivity. And that's actually something from our value proposition here is that our product is very versatile in that sense. Additionally, it's very user-friendly because the way that this product works is it is a product that you just keep on you, but you connect to it with your phone. So it's a phone-based product which has an app, and you connect to the device. And from the app, your device becomes a kind of like a hub. And because of that, it's very user-friendly. And I know that some of the, like, for example, when I talk about radio, it's like walkie-talkie. It's going to be very bulky, not very user-friendly. But on top of that, we have group tracking, messaging, license-free, it's without subscriptions, and we provide emergency alerts. And all this together does increase the safety for the customers. Thank you.
Okay, you just a little bit off. I think you want to be a little bit careful at the end of this because you kind of got into a kind of a selling mode, and this is not about selling, and it's not about technology. It's about customer discovery. So just be careful of that because we all get excited about our businesses. Otherwise, you just burn up too much time. So, Francis, please.
Yeah, very quickly. Since you're here, John, a word of advice on your value propositions. Concentrate on the benefits. These things that you're listing right here are features to your product. Okay, but think about this. It's like you're telling me, like, I'm gonna increase my connectivity from 70% to 80%, or I'm gonna have the ability to send an emergency signal everywhere in the world, or something like that. Think about, just rephrase your value proposition.
Thank you.
Your mentor can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly great advice, Francis. It was one of my, she went ahead of me, so now I have to say something else. Yeah, so I was just doing this actually in the Beartooth Mountains here in Montana over the weekend. There are multiple devices that are doing what you're doing. So kind of Eric's point earlier, I think you're going to have to think about, and again, this is maybe outside of class. I'm not saying you don't obviously pursue customer discovery, but every single person who, and I know a bunch of them, I've actually built a sports tech company within the extreme sports world for motocross before. They're gonna say that's cool. I use Garmin InReach or one of the other 10 other ones that are out there. And now, of course, Apple has, and I just was testing I have an InReach and I also have an iPhone. I was just testing them out, 50 miles out of cell tower range in the Beartooth Mountains here in Montana. And I just am curious, like I'm not understanding what you're offering that's different, to Eric's point and to what we talked about in the last startup. So maybe you ought to think also about, like, what are you doing that's different than the entrenched competitors that are already multi-billion or trillion-dollar companies?
Thank you, Scott. Other comments? I like this slide here, just to reemphasize that these are features, and you wanna look at a feature as, why does a customer care? What's the value proposition of group tracking? Why do I want to pay for group tracking? That's what you're trying to get here. User friendly. Why do I want to pay for that? So you want to focus turn these into value propositions as opposed to features. Why is this important? Why is somebody willing to pay for this? Customer segment for everybody. Customer segment is a person. It's not a group. It's a person. So it's, who are you going to sell this to? I'm going to sell it to an extreme sporting consumer. Something like that. So focus on one segment or one person. It's a person as opposed to a group. Other comments?
I think, yeah, I just think that something for all the entrepreneurs to think about is, and this, obviously, especially a lot of first-time founders, this kind of trips people up when they're doing the thought exercise of what they want to build. And so think about, do you have a feature, a product, or a platform? And a lot of entrepreneurs have a feature. And I'm not talking about this particular, I'm talking about this is for all the entrepreneurs. I'm not picking on this business. I'm just saying. So like, really think about that deeply. Like, do you have a feature? Because if you do, it's going to be very hard to build a company around a feature. Do you have a product? One product? Well, then you're competing against, again, like in this example, a company like Garmin and Apple with hundreds of billions of dollars and many products. And so another thing you can think about that could be instead of the action sports enthusiast being your customer, could your customer be Garmin? Or could your customer be Apple? Or like, do you have a solution that you could sell into one of these big companies that already has the platform, but you could still make a lot of money with what you've invented? So just think about that as well.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Scott.
All right. Are you guys able to see?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Will. I am here today with our founder, Daniel, and we're Neo Technologies. And we are creating a modern network server with integrated radio. And our goal is to help facilitate tech support and communication for government and emergency responders, even during internet outages. We help these agencies stay connected and secured, giving them access to critical resources such as maps and weather information when they need it the most. So currently, a lot of government institutions and emergency responders rely on the internet. As we know, when the power goes out during a natural disaster, the internet goes with it. These are the moments when it is most important for emergency responders to stay connected, and downtime in such a critical infrastructure can cost lives and delay emergency response times. In short, the current reliance on the internet for critical data and communications is a vulnerability for emergency responders. When the internet goes out, they experience costly delays, operational risks, and potential loss of life. So our current focus of customer discovery are communication managers in government institutions and emergency responders. Specifically, we want to know if these agencies would add our server to their network if it increases security and ensures connectivity during an internet down event. In order to prove this hypothesis, we plan on scheduling interviews with government, military, and emergency responder personnel. And with that, I'll pass it on to Daniel.
So what we're offering to these IT managers of their Wi-Fi connectivity, they have access to everything they need to be effective. We're enhancing their security, not only in what resources that they have access to during these critical times, but also to how secure their network is, as this would take the center of the network. It would basically replace the router. And it would be cost effective, not only to allow them to continue doing their jobs during these crises, but also to be able to have a network server that has resources like this without having the dedicated IT team that would usually be required for a custom setup. And that's what we have.
Good time management. You had almost a minute left. Again, and I'll let some other people jump in, but you're getting too deep into your technology and all of that. So we want to continue to focus on, the value proposition, uninterrupted connectivity. That's a feature. And what I want to know is, why is somebody willing to pay for that, and how much will they pay for that, or something like that. But I'll let the other mentors jump in. Who's first?
Yeah, I mean, I can go.
Please. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so I mean, similar feedback, I think, to the previous startup, and Art already gave you some good feedback on your slides. But you know, once again, are you a feature, a product, a platform? What are you? And and again, I don't know how much, in addition to the customer discovery, I would do some, and as part of this, Francis, I think in a few weeks they'll be working on their competitive matrix. So that's something else to think about. Like, and I won't get into a technical discussion because, of course, we're not supposed to do that at this stage. But I would like to talk to you more about your technical solution. It sounds very interesting. Check out Ignis Technologies, IGNIS. They're doing a similar thing for fire, backcountry fire emergency response. I mentored them. They're out of Montana. And we can talk offline about more about your technology. But good job.
Yeah. Other mentors? Could I see the first slide again, please?
Oh, hold on. I don't know what happened to all my text.
It's okay.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Again, and this is kind of for everybody, you want this really short. And on slides like this, you want this really short, something that I can remember, because what you don't want me doing as an investor is reading this, because if I'm reading it, I'm naturally going to read it. Then I'm not listening to you. So make it really, really short and critical. And as Francis has said, there's like 3 or 4 questions, and just shorten it, make it solid, and move on. Can I go to the next one?
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and the next one, I think I got this. Okay. I also like if you could add something that would kind of excite me, like increase their security, whatever that means, by 50%, increase their connectivity by 10%. Something that I can put my hands around. That's always stronger. Even if it's just an estimate, it gives me a little bit more stronger feel for, is this a 1% improvement, or is this a 20% improvement, or is this going to change the world improvement? So you might want to consider that on that. Other Other folks? Okay. Are we done?
I just have one question. Is it, are
Yeah,
you,
please.
have you, and again, outside of the class feedback, but are you patent, is this something that's patent pending or have you done IP work on this?
We have not done any IP work yet.
Okay, we can talk about that offline with your mentor and others.
Yeah, great.
Have we gotten everybody?
Can you all see my screen now? Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So hi, I know most of you for the first time. My name is Zeph. I'm the co-founder of Superfoam. Superfoam is a company that develops impact mitigation solutions based upon a patented high performance foam to prevent bodily injury uh, for products like helmets, body armor, and in industries where we need it the most, while we're driving a car, while we're sending people to space in construction, kid sports, NFL maybe, defense, and first responders. So our business hypothesis was that we'd want to reduce the cost of medical care because there's currently 12 million impact-related injuries that happen in the US. And the cost of that is in total, is probably about $56 billion. In terms of team, there's me, Zeph. I am the CEO. My background is industrial product design. I am a serial entrepreneur, and George Risk is our chief manufacturing officer. He's an expert in lean manufacturing, and the inventor of the foam is Professor George Yusuf. And yes, I have two Georges in my team. He is like the guy. He's written a pretty well acknowledged book on material polymers, and he's a professor of mechanical engineering at San Diego State. The problem we are addressing is sort of twofold. We actually started with one and found that there's another problem. So the first problem is the impact injuries, right? They cost 56 billion in medical care. But the second problem we found is that there's new regulation from both EPA, which is about the stoppage of PFAS chemicals and reducing particulate emissions. So both of these are sort of problems that have become apparent to us. So that kind of gives us two types of, although I've only listed one, that sort of gives us two types of customers. Ones who are already using some kind of high performance foam and they want an environmentally friendly product, and others who are either building or developing a new product that is for impact mitigation and they need a high performance foam compared to what's available in the market today. That's it. Sorry, the end.
Okay. Good. Comments or questions?
Yeah, can I go
Jump
very
in. Go
quickly?
ahead, Francis.
Okay, very quickly, Seth. In your first slide, since you're doing this for the manufacturers of these helmets or whatever, I want you to please, even though you're saying the $12 million impact or something, I think
12
it
million
will.
injuries.
Oh, okay. I want you to probably shift your emphasis and talk to a company and says, I'm gonna save you $10 million, or I'm going to think about that's option number one, okay? Talk to the manufacturers of these helmets, okay? Say that I'm gonna save you money. It's gonna be lighter, it's gonna be safer. Or think about the end user, okay? So you're telling a guy that rides a motorcycle, I'm going to increase your safety, or it's gonna be more resistant or whatever. Work with your mentor to either shift your story, change it a little bit.
Other comments?
I think we're talking for the first time tomorrow, Zeph. But so I haven't had a chance to give any feedback, but yeah, you're way too broad, obviously. I mean, I think, I think I would consider narrowing down on a segment. I mean, going after environmentally responsible manufacturers of foams and the NFL and, Department of Defense. I really think that you might consider narrowing down your end user customer so you can really go after and figure out which one's the best one to move your business forward, obviously. But But anyway, I think it's just super broad right now and probably going to be very challenging to figure out how to go after. Startups typically can't go after dozens of markets at the same time because they're startups and they're small and they're not funded. And so I would attempt to narrow it down into what you think could be your most, as Francis said, your most lucrative first market, or your what's called the beachhead market.
Okay.
Other comments? My only comment is you spent a whole bunch of time on this first slide, and you won't have that much time as you move on. And there's too many words on this slide. Again, you don't want people reading your slide, and you don't want to spend too much time on your slide. The money on this slide is, who are you? What is this all about? The folks on that, it's pretty easy to go through it, so be careful about it. Other comments about this? By the way, Scott can help you on this. He's expert at doing this. So let me just wrap it up. Thank you very much for everybody staying over just a little bit. I know this can get tiring in the evening. Couple of things to think about. Remember, you're telling a story here. So when you're putting together these slides, you want to think about, what is the message I want to leave with the audience? What's the message? What are the key points? And every one of these pages is part of the story. And look at each page as this is a component of the story, and think about, for every page of your presentation, what are you trying to tell the audience? What is this page trying to tell it? And if it's telling like 8 or 9 things, you're not going to get that. Get it down to a couple of key points. When you present and you start getting worried or you start getting nervous, write on a card for each slide 3 things. What are the 3 things you want to get across on this slide? What are the 3 things? And just talk about those 3 things. You don't have to read the whole slide. You don't have to talk about it. There's 3 things I want to highlight on this on this particular slide. And you just focus on those things, talk about it. When you got through with the 3 things, go to the next slide. And you never have to worry about panicking, or did I say everything, or did I forget to say everything? That'll help you. Remember, we don't care about your technology in this class. We love your technology. We really do. We're excited about it. That's what brings us back, everything. But for this particular exercise, we're talking about how to commercialize your technology. So we're going to be really kind of ugly at times. I don't care about your technology. What I care about is, and kind of when you talk to investors, you're going to talk to guys like me or Scott. They're going to say, I don't care about your technology first. I want to know how do I make a whole bunch of money really fast? That's what I care about. So you need to think about, not as much about your technology, but who you're selling to. Why are they going to get not just accepted? Why are they going to get excited? And that's what this customer discovery is: to get out and talk to customers, and with open-ended questions like Isabel and Will talked about. Because this is not a class. You're not going to get a grade. This is your project. So ask them those open-ended questions. Ask them, well, what bugs you, or what's your biggest challenge? Or if you could wave a magic wand and fix something, what would that look like? And really be careful that you say, well, I got something right here. Here it is. You don't want to do it. You want to keep digging and digging and digging and digging, so that they start talking to you about things that maybe you haven't included. What's important to you, the idea with these customer discussions is, what is it going to take for you to spend money on this particular problem? What's going to cause you to say, yeah, I'd spend some money for that? And he said, well, features, it's a feel-good feature. Well, you're going to feel better about this. I'm not going to spend any money on that. I'm not spending money to make myself feel better. So think about, that's what you're trying to drive down. What problem will this solve? What are your problems? And will you spend money to solve that problem? And then we're holding all of that up against your product and say, gee, we'll solve that problem and they'll pay us money. That's what it is. Or we got to change the product a little bit, or we got to change the market a little bit. Like we talked to Magdalena, we might want to change this product just a little bit to really hit somebody that's really excited. That's okay. Remember, we can pivot. It's okay. And just work on this stuff and immerse yourself into it. If you get confused, That's wonderful. We want you to be confused. We want you to say, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't know what these guys are telling me. Then you're getting into it. Then you're starting to understand this stuff. If it's really simple, the interviews were simple, then you're not getting what you need out of it. Remember, you can talk to any mentor you talked about. You heard of that. If for instance, Scott said a couple of times you ought to talk to him. You can call any one of us and ask for time to help you on any time. And with that, I think we're done. Thanks for staying over.
I put it in the chat if people
Thank
want to
you,
stick
everybody.
around and talk about intellectual property. If not,